In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Tonight, family, we step into a conversation that sits at the crossroads of innovation, equity, and the future of human centered healthcare. In America in Black and White, we tell the stories of leaders who are shaping systems, transforming communities, and redefining what excellence looks like in spaces where our voices have too often been overlooked. Our guest this evening is one of those leaders, a visionary whose work spans hospitals, federal agencies, Fortune 100 companies, academic institutions, and the innovation ecosystems that are building tomorrow's breakthroughs. Timothy E. Butts is not simply a technologist. He is a builder of systems, a designer of solutions, and a champion for the people who rely on those systems every day. His career has touched Mayo Clinic, Eli Lilly, Texas Children's Hospital, Indian Health Services, Booz Allen Hamilton, and the Wharton School of Business. He has led multi-million-dollar modernization programs, advanced clinical research informatics, and shaped the national conversation on AI adoption, digital transformation, and equitable healthcare delivery. But behind the credentials is a story rooted in family, purpose, and the influences of his mother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Reverend Jesse Jackson. A story of a Black man navigating and transforming some of the most complex institutions in America. Tonight, we explore that story. Tonight, we honor that journey. Tonight, we welcome a leader who is building the future with intention, intelligence, and heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Timothy E. Butts Sr., please. Hello,
Hey, good
sir.
evening.
How are you?
How are you, sir? Are you my
I,
brother?
I am excellent. Thanks
I'm
for
well.
being here.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. So before
Great,
we
great.
get
Thank you
started,
for the opportunity to talk.
yes, sir. Before we get started, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience?
Well, good evening, America. Good evening, all listeners. It's a blessing to be here with you. It's a real opportunity I couldn't pass up, both to share, to put things in perspective that I'm both aware of, that I'm helping to create, but I'm also blessed to be a recipient of, as others have created and built with me. And I want to always encourage you to be aware that we are constantly building. Despite the hurdles, we must look forward and the prize. And I'm here for a word of encouragement to you. So let's break it down.
Yes, sir. So before we get started, so there's quite a bit of hellos here that are in the chat. And I just want to say to each and every individual here that is in the chat, thank you guys for being here, and we
Okay.
appreciate you. As we start here, can you tell us, sir, who is Timothy E. Butts Sr. at his core beyond the titles and accomplishments?
That's a question for me. So the question is, who am I at my core? At the core, I am the
Yes, sir.
youngest of six. I am a business, okay, the youngest of six. I'm a business professional. I am a deacon. I am a person who strives to set a positive vision. People would say I'm sometimes overwhelming with my positivity and my optimism, but I'm also one who knows how I need to, and I'm one who wants to lead the fight with conviction. So that's who I am at my core. I'm a proud father of two, and I'm just blessed to be here by grace.
Mm. So, what was your childhood like, and how did it shape your curiosity for technology and systems?
At the core, as I look back where I'm literally sitting now and what bridges have brought me to this space, I am blessed by my parents both working for the VA hospital. And in working there, they would engage us in talking about the perspectives of hospital life, healthcare, the disparities, but also at that time, the Vietnam War was raging. I distinctly remember as a child, my parents were very engaging, both in church, community, and at the workplace. And I remember them sometimes bringing strangers, friends home on Sunday afternoons. And that exposed me early to a self-awareness as a child, but also a self-awareness of what other people's needs were, a spirit of service, but also a self-awareness. So at my core and at my youth, as the youngest of six, my siblings would tease me, but they'd also always be protective of me. But my parents were really trying to open doors and trying to pave the way for us to have opportunities and be aware of what we were up to and what they were doing. So we'd always have that perspective. It was always a perspective of hope, of strength, of resilience. And my mom, even now, as my mom is 102 years old and still goes to the gym every
Oh,
day. Yeah, right? It's been amazing because that same spirit swims in my entire family. So that's who I am at my core, and that's what I'm proud to look back on, but also enjoy right now. I'm blessed by it.
so tell us, being the youngest, how did that bring about the character of you of learning from those before you?
Sometimes I would tease them and say, it's a joy to watch you guys make mistakes. That way I know what not to do. And I know that my brother, when he watches this, he's going to be saying, oh, yeah, I remember you used to say that all the time. And then he'd come over and pop me upside the head or something. But it was a lot of that type of love, man. It was really a case of six of us. My mom, who was a trained vocalist, but also a clinician, used to teach us all. This is in the 1960s, okay? She would teach us all to sing our various parts. So we were actually, all six of us would travel in these little costumes, very much like the Von Trapp family singers, right? And we'd win talent shows, but she wanted us to all be integrated, family oriented, and growing up like that. The real spirit of that as the youngest really permeates even to this day.
Mm. So, when did you first realize you had a gift for solving complex problems?
Oh, early on, my siblings would remind me of that because on one hand, where I was teasing them and saying, I'm watching you make mistakes, so I won't, they would turn that around and say, okay, you got the answers. Now you got to step up front and show us what we need to do. So I recall even in tragic times, I was asked by the family to step up and lead, whether it was for the mourning of my father when he passed away, but to coordinate, be the spokesperson, be the coordinator, etc., with broader parts of the family. But also as a father of two, I just felt ready and very prepared by those activities as my youth and as I grew to step up. I've always had a knack for being able to be a crisis manager, and I don't I don't sweat the small stuff. I mean, with God on my side, I tend to have more faith than fear, and that's how I operate.
So, what role did your mother play in shaping your values and leadership style?
Being very focused on service, being focused on never being alone, and knowing that if you're doing right, you should be aware, you should be self aware that God's already inside of you. So why be fearful? So even in the things I do today, but even as a child, let's be candid. I used to get teased by my last name when I'm little. You know how cruel kids can be. I learned how
Right.
to fight. I learned how to fight very early. So there'd be times in first and second grade, other kids are messing with me, and I turn around, I would like try to pop them in the head or pop them in the throat. I remember my
Mhm.
father specifically would say, "Don't start fights, but if you have to start a fight, know how to finish it. Or if you get in a fight, know how to finish it." So he's told me put up my dukes, learn how to do it, and that's back in the days when a fight was just putting up your dukes. Now they'll just
Yes.
shoot you just for looking at them the wrong way. But but I learned that early, and I'm blessed that I remember as a paper boy, one time some guys started to jump me, and they didn't know my route. So I specifically made my way back to that house. They didn't know it was my family's house. I came to the door, said, "I'm here to collect," and the dudes was like, my family was like, "What? What?" I said, "I'm here to collect. There's some guys over my shoulder. They want to jump me." So my brothers went around my back, and so as soon as I got something and started coming down the steps, those dudes turned around. My brothers were waiting for him. So it was already a great thing to know I had this type of reinforcements.
Wow. So, as and when you mentioned that you had a paper route,
Yeah.
in doing the paper route, what was the motivation of you actually getting that paper route, and what did it set for you today?
Oh man. Being a self-starter, learning business, learning how to balance money, learning the importance of interaction with my neighbors, actually trying to build a sense of community, neighbor, um, responsibility, getting there, doing a favor, and then but your rented servant knows that's what was up. Are you able to hear me all right? Okay.
Yes, sir. It's like you getting a little delay sometimes, and then sometimes it gets a
Yeah.
little robotic, but
Yeah.
it's good.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, cool.
how did your early experiences as a black man in STEM influence your career trajectory?
So I was interested in technology because I was in a time where initially the technology that we used in our house were tape recorders, television, that type of thing. But my brother Marcus was really into playing with gadgets. I remember he entered the science fair and he would always show us all these crazy ideas he would do. But he was so into the things that if he found the Latin translation of something, he would either speak to about it in Latin, in Greek, and then say, and here's what it is. And he'd present it really grandiose. So my immersion in technology both came from what my parents brought home and showed us, what I was watching and learning from peers, but also the immersion of things changing. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have been born at a time when innovation was changing. Coming right out of high school, I was selected and earned my way into an organization called Inroads. And in that, my first internship was as a telecommunications trainee. That was when telecommunications was you're going to learn what a personal computer is, you're going to learn what a fax machine is, but you're going to teach other people what they are. Put it in perspective, this was 1980. So I had to tell the CEO of a multinational conglomerate, this is a personal computer. Those big reel to reels in the data room where you're using data cards are going to be transitioned over to large floppy disks. And I had to immerse myself well enough to be able to translate the aspects of technology so that a senior executives could both hear it, understand it, and be able to do something with it. That immersion was critical because I had the confidence, I built the confidence to both communicate that, but also they embraced me and began to pull me aside and say, okay, listen, as an intern, you're going to have these opportunities to do this. But as our telecommunications guy, we want you to get mentored. We want you to feel that we can call each other by first name. And I was not used to at age 18, 19, calling a 45, 55-year-old person by their first name. I remember Tom McManus sitting in his office with a cigar and a glass of whiskey. Yeah, back in the day, that was the real deal in a business office. But he was telling me, listen, as these things change, learn from it, learn how to invest in it, and then also take as many lessons as you can as a young man. And that way, as you get older, I'll have given you something. So I really benefited from those types of conversations.
So tell us, why technology? Why was that so important to you?
Technology, because it was something that was fast moving. It was something that I could grasp the idea of. People right now might write with a pencil and pen on paper, but I was given the opportunity to be able to translate that and say what you previously did with paper and possibly made mistakes, we're going to do it digitally. That way it's automatically backed up. And if you make mistakes, you can go to the digital version and then fix it. That way you increase your capacity of what you can actually do, as well as be able to communicate it in a smoother way. I was able to teach executives the ideas of what bits and bods were, bod rates, etc. But also I was able to teach them things like throughput. I remember teaching them the analogy of a signal going through a wire is very much like a ship going down a river. And depending on how close the ships are to each other that are passing through, that's going to affect the communication signal. Much like we experienced a second ago on this call, there may have been an effect of where there were slight delays. That's because the signal or the sound of our voices going across these lines is actually affected. One affected by distance, one affected by noise around us, one affected by the other signals that might be coming through. All of those things affect telecommunications. So I was able to master that and then pass that along to executives, and we're able to make business decisions basically articulated them to. So straight up lesson by full immersion. So I loved telecommunications. I loved technology. I saw things changing, and I also recognized the opportunity for growth and leadership in that. I was able to apply leadership, and by being a leader, being able to speak about something that had so much power, that also built up my confidence, not only to speak to people about technology, but to speak about being a human being and know that I had value when I walked in a room. I could share, you don't know this, but here's the real deal on this. And if people didn't want to listen, they didn't. But they tended to listen because they wanted to learn more about technology, especially when it was at the crossroads. I was in that company at Allegheny International, which was the parent company for what was Sunbeam, Scripto, a razor company called Wilkinson Sword. This was a conglomerate, and I was responsible for the telecommunications and the lines and the network and all that. So as I learned from my mentors and through inroads, I was able to articulate these pieces, really get the value back, learn how a company is set up, learn the difference between being a switchboard operator and watching all that migrate. I remember when Ma Bell was the only telecommunications company, and then you had the baby bells and all that. So in my responsibility, I then had to negotiate with all these different vendors, because one year you had one phone company. The next year you had NYNEX, you had Ameritech, you had Bell South, all of this mess overnight. I had to quickly learn that and then communicate back to all the leaders. Here's how we should make our business decisions. This company should handle our long distance. This company should handle our local. This company should be a direct bat phone to this other line, all that, like Watts lines is what we called them. So I had to quickly immerse myself, do the business, and that taught me the urgency of getting things done. So yeah, sometimes it was sloppy because they knew I was coming in as an intern, but I was blessed with a lot of grace, because as long as I was able to get the concept down, I could then go back and polish it, but also keep on working at it. And I've learned a lot of resilience and persistence through that. I really have.
So, the young person that's looking at the show right now today,
Yeah.
what would you tell them, or what could you say to them that they should be thinking about in this age of technology? What are some of the things that they should do in order to move their careers forward?
I love that question. Conceptually, I have embraced AI, and I treat AI and its various AI agents and various platforms like dogs. In my mind, it's a dog that potentially can talk and talk back to you. But if you train it, you can trust that dog. If you misuse it or don't have a chain on it or don't have guardrails around it, it can bite you if you don't feed it properly. So that's the way I typically articulate that to people that I'm training about AI. But you asked, in this day and age, what should a young person be aware of? Be aware that you can build your future. Get out there and learn it. Be a continuous learner, be a continuous leader, and know you always have something to offer. Even if you just have a perception of how something works, research it. Learn how to do research. Learn that you know, not think that you know. Learn that you know a topic, and then dwell on that, practice it, look in the mirror, become self-aware as how you're sharing that, and then go out and start sharing it with people. Hey, they might be talking about this, this, and this. Listen. Sometimes the loudest person in the room really doesn't know a lot. Just be succinct, Be quiet, but when it comes time for you to talk, be deep, be brief, but be effective. So that's what I tell a young person right now. Be a continuous learner and be strong with it.
So, what were the defining moments that pushed you toward healthcare technology?
Yeah, it was that wonderful integration, a wonderful merger between what I was doing in my internship, but also, like I said, as a child, my parents had immersed me in. Think about it. I'm 5 years old. I'm up there in my mother's office or my dad's clinic. My dad was occupational therapist. So I'm up there working on clay pots and I'm working side by side with a guy who's coming back from Vietnam. He has PTSD, or I guess back then they used to call it being shell shocked. And he's coming in here, he's sitting there, and now he only has one arm. But I'm sitting there as a kid, and I, through that therapeutic method, am demonstrating when you get home and your son, who's my age, is going to wonder, why can't daddy hold me with two arms? So I'm fortunate that part of the therapy was I can work with that other kid, his kid, and demonstrate to him we can do this together. And in so doing, he's learning how to do other tasks with his other arm or with just one eye or whatever the case might be. So I was immersed with the reality of how people get injured. That's the healthcare side, but also how people can recover. I was immersed in the mental piece, the emotional piece, the spiritual piece, the areas, and technology afforded me that to be here. So later on, I became more of a leader in healthcare, and the opportunity for healthcare and technology together really was a springboard. I later became head. I later became what was the title was co-chair of innovation and physician education for Mayo Clinic. So in doing that, I was on the team that was building early versions of electronic medical records. So think about it. Now, when you visit the doctor, I was literally on the team that was writing, here's what the doctor would say when you visit, and now saying, here's what we're going to type when we do it. I was on the team that was transitioning all of that. So that was powerful for me.
You know what's interesting about that is I remember back when I was in grad school, and we were
Yeah.
working on a project, and I don't. I think this young lady must have been in healthcare. I'm not sure exactly, but in our group, she wanted to do this thing that they're doing right now, which is something about how the technology is to store data, is to translate data, and some other kind of stuff. I mean,
Yep.
it was like fascinating, right?
Okay.
And so what we did was we actually made the mistake of the website that we created, made it go live, but we had to turn it off. But I'm fast forwarding up to now, like maybe like 10, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
And what you're seeing now is that in medical, everything is about the technology.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what made that transition happen and why was that so important?
There's a couple of factors that come to mind as to the transition from analog health to
Mhm.
digital health. The way I used to say it when I was mentoring and teaching was when you're analog and just writing things down, there's high potential for mistakes. When it's
Okay.
digital, you can correct it. You can create redundancy, which is a second version of it automatically, i.e., if something gets messed up or somebody scratches on your paper, with redundancy, you have the correct version or a test version. So, why today is it that way? Why is it that way? Because we've gotten better at documentation, or at least tools for documentation. But the human factor, which is another of our expertises, I've learned that human factors are still so important. Where you're sitting, how you're articulating, how you're breathing, all affects how you're memorizing or even saying what you need to say. So, to answer your question, short version, I can get wordy, is the healthcare pieces that are now digital should be easily integrated with other aspects of healthcare tools. When I talk about healthcare disparities, a lot of that is human driven because the tools are out there. It's a matter of who wants to make a buck off of it. It's a matter of who the doctor or physicians or clinicians or providers are who are providing the care. And then some of that is choice. You will see so many cases across the board and just in life, where you'll see one type of person get one type of care, but another person with the exact same issue will get a different type of care. Is that just insurance, or is it human factors? Is it someone making a decision, a conscious decision? And that's what I'm continue to preach about. Preach, teach, and advocate. Balanced clinical expression, but all of us should be having the right to be healthy, the right to healthcare, and access to healthcare.
So, what is the greatest lesson life taught you before your career ever began?
Wow. To learn how to love, to learn how to forgive, and to know that I am not perfect, make mistakes, but also can give grace when mistakes are made. I have learned that I get a lot farther flying in a flock that's flying in the same direction than singular flying solo going the wrong direction. You know?
I agree with that
Hey,
500%.
yep.
Um, how do you stay grounded while operating in high pressure, high stakes environments?
One, I am self aware. So imposter syndrome tends to not happen. I won't step into something knowingly that I don't feel I'm ready for. But if I need to be jumping into a crisis, I'm going to bring the best I know that I can bring and have faith that God will give me what I need in the moment of care. So I can't say that I can even think of a time when I've jumped in and been over my head, but I can say that I've been blessed with opportunities to get into crises, manage through it, and all of us get through it together.
Well, I have an interesting comment here that I'm sure you would love to respond to.
What's
This
that?
is from Peter Yasser. I'll put it on the screen. He says
Okay.
it's an interesting talk. He's Peter. He's a software engineer from Kampala. He said
Okay.
he's built digital tools both before the AI boom and in today's AI driven environment. One
Okay.
challenge stands out more than ever: distribution. Building a product is becoming easier with AI, but getting it in front of the right users and achieving meaningful adoption remains the hardest part. I love to hear your thoughts on how founders and developers can solve the distribution problem in this new era.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, for that great question. I would say that the question you're calling distribution is actually a go to market question. So when we're looking at traction of an idea, product, or service, you're really looking at, have you found your beachhead? What is the right customer for that product? And are you introducing to them, I'm solving your pain point? Therefore, they should be raving fans and coming to you saying, I know you have what we need, and then pulling it from you. Or are you building something and then looking for an audience? You've got to do it in sync where you've tested it, piloted it, and then know what your right audience looks like. And then distribution, the marketing, the communication, etc., the groundswell will also help you get it out there. But I agree with you that it's challenging, particularly when you have AI tools that can build an app from scratch just based on you saying, hey AI, hey chat, hey Claude, I have an idea for this. Please build me this tool that does this. And therefore you have extra competition just from AI generating something. But it's really important to be able to articulate, here are the features and the benefits of what I'm building. Here's how it addresses your issue, your pain point. And then likewise, as I teach over at University of Houston, operations management, talk about the various facets of how it fits in and makes that pain go away, or at least solves their problem. But don't just solve it and walk away, be there for maintenance. So hopefully that helped to answer your question, but I do agree with you and I echo it is challenging. It's very challenging now because you have an entirely different marketplace than you did prior to AI. AI is faster. Everything's just 10 times faster.
Here is another comment here. I wanted to ask, well, before that, I want to follow up and I want to ask you something else that was a part of Peter's question and quote.
Okay.
Like, what about the abusers of AI, people that's misusing AI? Because if it's being misused, then that means that the purpose is not going to be received. What do you do about that portion? Because today's time with a lot of the younger folk, They're like using AI for everything. But I
Mhm.
think there's a time and a place for that. What
There
about
is.
that?
There is. So there is a time and a place. Let's start with that. There is a time and a place for everything. I'm blessed to work with a gentleman. We've built a tool called Dolphin Parents, and Dolphin Parents embeds AI, and it actually works as a student writes and then loads in, hey, I wrote an essay on this. The AI evaluates that person's style and their writing. It then communicates back to the student and their parent. Here's the style of writing. Hey, your kid's in eighth grade, but they're writing at an 11th grade level. They might want to look at this college just based on the writing samples. So the tool acts like a dolphin parent and guides a person along, and they can use it all the way through college and into life, or even in grad school or in trade school. So we've used AI, like I said before, as a trained advocate, both feeding it, here's what you typically want and do, and have the guardrails on there. But to your point, the abuse comes when those that are applying it, using it, or even managing it aren't aware of its capabilities, haven't set up standards, policies, etc., or even aware of laws that they could do in terms of practice in their setting. Think about it like this. If you already do work a certain way and AI is there to help you get that done, you should have some guidance on how you get things done. If you're just leaving it willy nilly, that's all.
Okay, well, there is, well, Peter says he appreciates that.
Don't leave things willy nilly for now.
Yeah, well, okay, now you're back. It's, yeah, you kind of like slowed all the way down. Okay, Peter says he appreciates,
Repeat what I said. Have governance.
okay.
So it says that I'm restarting. So I'll be happy to re-answer the last question if you need me to.
Well, no, I was going to put the next quote up, but I just want to tell you, Peter said he appreciate that.
Okay. Be in touch, Peter.
Uh,
Let's connect on LinkedIn.
this next quote here is by Dr. Brown. He says AI may be solving wrong bottleneck. Historically, building the product was the hard part. Today, building is becoming commoditized. The new bottleneck is attention, trust, and credibility, which
Yes,
means many founders aren't competing against other products anymore. They're competing against noise.
that's very true. So as I work with founders, I'm involved here in Houston in what's called Startup Circle, and here at the Houston Ion, and also at the Texas Medical Center Innovation Center, and also just around the whole community,
Mhm.
out in Plug and Play, out in Sugarland, just outside of Houston. We will look at what people are doing and building, but also wanting to ask them, okay, put your computer down. Tell me what it does. And it's that same old test that you used to do years ago. Somebody can come in with a speech and break it down. You like say, I want to hear in your words what it does. That's the test. The acid test is asking a founder if they can explain it in their own words and can explain it to a fifth grader as well as to a college grad. That's the test, being able to translate what really is going on. If that's not there, then the competence and the research isn't really embedded. It's not genuine. And that's the noise that we're talking about, being able to do the vetting. And we have to become more critical in doing vetting because someone like me who's over 40, I know right away I'm going to be vetted out of the mix if I step in and say, I'd like to jump in and jump on a project and be paid for it by a typical Fortune 500 company. Because they're going to say, oh, you're too high priced, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot that comes with that being high priced, right? If I'm coming in with genuine knowledge and experiences, there should be a value tied to that. Whereas someone else much younger maybe comes in and carries their AI with them and then gets you a product that's completed. But if you ask them without their AI to explain that product, they may, I'm not saying all cases, but they may have difficulty in breaking it down. So the question really is, Are you looking for someone to get things done, or are you looking for someone to actually be knowledgeable as they share it? I personally prefer to earn an A rather than be given an A. You ever ask a kid, how'd you get that grade? And they say, oh, the teacher gave me a C. Nah, I like to hear when a student says, I earned a C. There's a
Mhm.
difference because we're telling ourselves, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
This one just popped up here in the chat. I'll put it on the screen.
cool.
Computers are a bunch of switches. It's just that the switches are very, very tiny. Then he concludes that with the next thing I'll put on the screen. He says actually relays, not switches.
Okay, so he's talking telecommunications language. So relays and switches, just like in engineering. So if something has throughput, think about this. I'm going to break down that river analogy again. A river boat is going down a river, and you reach a point. In fact, we can even use what's going on over in the Middle East, in the Persian Gulf. You have things sitting in a port that can't get all the way through. Those are switches. Those are channels, right? Isn't what's that area called that the ships are not allowed to go through?
The Straits of Hormuz.
The Straits of Hormuz is a ship channel, much like the Panama Canal. Things pass through there. But if you've ever watched how that works, the water comes in, fills it, and then you drop through and it goes through, and you have to have permission to go all the way through. It's the same way it is when you're talking communications, telecommunications. The signal has to go through the line. Even wireless, it has to be able to go through without too much noise. So all of that is when he's talking about the switches and all that. Yeah, that's telecom, that's throughput, etc. So I appreciate you saying computer. Don't oversimplify, but computers are a wonderful tool to get a lot of things done. I look at, frankly, when I think about computers, I think about the incredible way that the price of storage has dropped. Someone who remembers those giant floppy disks,
Oh
you
my God, do I?
right? But how much could they store? And now you think about we're storing terabytes on our hard drives, or storing even more in the cloud. It's incredible. That to me is the big part about computing. I'm building a data lake for a client, a data lake. That way, all the data is dumped into something the size of a lake. And if you want to pull a report out of there, you just go pull all the variables out, put them together, and say, okay, how these things all tie together, and then pull out the appropriate report. So it's an amazing thing. I've watched that change so much over the last 30, 40 years.
And Dr. Brown says absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
So can you tell what does success mean to you today compared to 20 years ago?
Oh, wow. So 20 years ago, I was focused on work performance daily, work performance to a manager and how they saw me, but also making sure that I was being the best dad for my sons and to my spouse and to my broader family and community. Now I know who I am as far as looking in the mirror and saying, define yourself in this many words, right? So, to all persons in my inner circle, in my village, as I like to call it, I am me. I try to be very consistent, and that's success. But also, success is when you love people enough that you can be open and honest with them, but also hear open and honestly when they tell you what's up. That's
Mhm,
success because you don't
mhm.
always have all the money in your pocket you want. But someone once told me, you might want to be a millionaire, but if your budget is $1 billion budget, guess what? You're in poverty because you haven't reached the level you need to be at. So success isn't monetary. It's a state of mind. It's a state of self-awareness of what you need to get things done the way you want them to be done. I remember years ago, a really good friend used to always say to me, "This isn't life if I can't afford the standard of living that I want." And I would always challenge, "Well, how do you plan to get that?" And therefore, there's the challenge: getting that standard of living, having peace of mind in your heart, in your soul, in your spirit, but also being able to say, I can step out without fear to do these things. And I'll tell you what, I wear this every day, and that's part of my success. I will sit with a client, and if they have a trouble, if I don't know the thing, we start off with prayer. I'm like, God, give us the spirit to know how we can get through this and give us some fresh ideas. And I'll tell you what, there's a number of times where right away ideas start to come. We're like, where did that come from? Oh, I'm a vessel. I open myself up. I want the vessel to be filled up with the right ideas, with the right spirit, with the right mindset. So that's success for me. I feel very blessed and successful.
Well, I've got two quick quotes here.
Sure.
Here's one that I remember using discs that were the size of dinner plates LOL.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In
And
fact, go ahead.
Peter says it's really interesting to be here with the tech OGs in the house with a smile.
Appreciate that. It's a joy because when you think about how much tech has changed over the years, there are people who can still do things in old type tech. But something I like to say to people who grab applications off the shelf means you buy a finished product off the store, pop it in. That is still written in an old language, and the shell around it is something that's built so that a person can quickly adapt it or utilize it now. But someone who's built the shell or built the outer user interface can appreciate what it took to go from the idea to inception to application, and then actually to have a finished product or a finished service. So OGs in the house, it's a beautiful thing because we're needed but to understand, and if everything broke down, if all the electricity went out, you also got to know how to do it in analog form rather than digital. So that's the real OG piece. And I applaud doctors who, when that system breaks down, know how to do things without the computers now. Because we have, to your point earlier, we have become far more digital. I had surgery last year, and they used a robotic arm to do the surgery. So I think about how the precision of that surgery was not available in my youth. I
Well, can
and
you
I
tell us?
had
Go ahead.
surgery. I was all life. And this just proof. There's some wonderful.
So, what legacy do you hope your children? What legacy do you hope your children and community see in your work? Dr. Brown has another comment here. Let me put it on the screen for you. He says 20 years ago, success was measured by what you own. And today, it may be measured by what owns you: your schedule, your attention, your debt, your obligations, your algorithms. Maybe success isn't accumulation anymore. Maybe it's autonomy. LOL. let's move over to your work as the CEO of Teb Tech Biz LLC. Tell us what inspired you to launch Teb Tech. So, what problems does your company solve that others often overlook? Well, I think literally it might not, but it definitely still exists. And I think it's about how that actually, well, I guess it depends upon a lot of the companies and what they consider to be service. So, how do you approach digital transformation differently from traditional consulting firms? So, what is the most challenging part of modernizing healthcare systems? Mm. Okay.
Are
There's
we
a
there?
yes, you're here. There's a couple of messages here I want you to hear, but the audience is having some difficulty.
Okay.
Mr. Timothy, Peter just stated, Mr. Timothy, my network is
Yes.
glitching and I'm not able to hear you clearly. It's late in the morning on his side, and so he says, so I think I'll catch up with the recording later. Thank you, everyone, for the insightful
Okay.
discussion, and a special thank you to Mr. Charles for organizing such an amazing session. I really enjoyed being a part of it and learning from all the tech OGs in the house. Dr. Brown just put in the chat. He says, "I'm able to hear. He's able to hear me clearly, but he's unable to hear you, Mr. Butts."
Okay. I'm happy to repeat or repair any short snippets of anything that may have been lost in translation or in communication. So I know that you asked a question around healthcare, and I'll say
Yes.
it slower and more distinctly. In healthcare, when you make mistakes, people can die. That to me is the great differentiator when you're talking technology in healthcare. I have to go into every contract and engagement knowing that I hold the life of someone in my hands. So I've purposefully have been mentored by surgeons, the heads at Mayo Clinic, at Texas Medical Center, at Temple University, at Indian Health Services, Presbyterian Health. And these doctors have told me we can't make mistakes because people are on the table. So I go into it with a lot of care and I work slowly, meticulously when needed, but I work fast and specifically when needed.
So tell us, how do you help organizations adopt AI responsibly and ethically?
Ethics in AI is still being developed. If you
Mm.
watch the news every day, you have people fighting over which AI platform should even exist,
Yep.
right? But we as consumers, I think it's our responsibility to both know what AI and the AI agents and AI tools are, to go out and practice, get certifications, learn how to train your animal. I use AI to the extent where my piece will read my emails, summarize, here's what's happened the day before. And then as I'm getting up in the morning saying, thank you, God, for waking me up, it's also saying, here's your agenda for the day. So my AI has been trained by me to be my advocate. So that's responsible use of a technology. There are those who just use it the way they would and asking Google, hey, Google, I want to do this. Or hey, Siri, play me this song. That's not how you use AI. AI, you can do and say, I'd like for a shirt made of this material and this size and these measurements to be made, and then use that specific guide, those prompts into a um, a digital printer and then build and make a shirt. But that's knowing what tools you have available and knowing how to integrate them all together. So there are amazing things we can build and train and teach with using the technology we have at our fingertips. But we also need to learn the capabilities of it as we are applying it and learning about it. So I encourage people. LinkedIn Learning is a great place. I'm developing a whole curriculum for my peers in Inroads and Inroads alumni. I'm also teaching through my company. Here are aspects of AI certifications. I proudly print out list of things that companies and HBCUs are doing for free to make sure that you, the general public, can learn AI, get certifications, and take those classes for free. So it's not like it's not accessible. I'm just asking people to be lifetime learners, go out there and learn it, or at least stick your feet in the water and learn what's up. Don't run in fear. Face it and see what it's all about. Then, once you know something about it, if you become an advocate and you know how to train your animal, great. But don't go running from an animal because that makes no sense.
Hey, I wanna ask you a follow up on that last question because the at the end of that question when it says the ethically part, and you said that they're still trying to do AI and ethics right now at this point.
Yeah,
With that being said, can I ask you this? Do you
yeah.
think it's a fair assessment that for now the way the younger generation is using AI, they use it for everything, especially in their college experience? Do you think that with that experience, that it's the right thing to have an AI to check the AI to see about using works that's not yours?
Great question. I'll start with that. Great question. And I think that that is a question that a lot of people are asking. I don't want to
Mhm.
answer the question that I want to answer. I want to answer your question. So,
Okay.
okay. All right. Because I've been a politician, I've run for Congress before. So I know how to dodge
Okay.
questions. But this one I'm going to
Okay.
meet head on.
Okay.
When you're talking ethics, ethics is a funny word. We all know in our own business system, a company can make widgets, create waste, and know that they've created $1 million worth of waste, but know that in creating that extra money for themselves, they only have to pay a $200 fine. Is that ethical? So that's where I start with my questions on ethics. So now let's jump into the use of AI in the classroom and in communities. If we have a rapidly advancing tool, resource that everyone has in their pocket. Same thing happened when these when the personal communication devices first came out, which is when they evolved to smartphones. How should they be used? Where should they be used, etc.? It's going to take a while for law to catch up to it. It's going to take a while for use cases to catch up. So I have an opinion where those that have responsibility for an environment should already have policies, procedures, and practices in place at an analog level that they are constantly working to evolve into a digital policy and practice. That way, when new digital tools come in, you're able to quickly look at here's an example of this. Let's have our governance team talk about how that's working. And then through use cases, then say, this is what we want the situation to be. We see examples where it was misused. And based on that precedent, let's